This is a warm-up video for the ICAD 2020 challenge, index card a day. You have to work on an index card and you pretty much can do anything you want. She does have prompts that she will probably issue any day now. The challenge starts on June 1st. So I'm gonna get started. I of course have my index card here, and I just have an old book page which I'm gonna tear. So I'm gonna add some collage elements before I add my paint. So let me just grab a brush for my matte medium. I tend to use older brushes in matte medium or Mod Podge because they are glues. And I'm just gonna stick that down. I'm not putting these down in any specific order. It really is just where I think they will look good. It's a very intuitive process. This is a tea bag paper from a used tea bag. I think they add great character to a piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some. And I also have here some drywall tape. This is the joint tape used in drywall applications. And I love when you tear it just like that. It has a sticky adhesive on it also, but it's kind of hard to get off and get going. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and add some matte medium on top of that. Alright, so I'm going to add this on here. Put some matte medium over the top just to protect it when we start adding our colors. I'm going to tear off this bit right here. Alright, great. I'm gonna put that aside to dry. And then we come back, we will start adding our color. Okay, this is almost dry, not 100%, but while it is drying, I wanted to show you the embellishment I'm gonna use. I'm working on more than one project, so of course my hands are filthy as usual. I'm gonna use one of these birds, probably one of these guys. I just go ahead and stamp a whole bunch on like Bristol when I have my stamps out. So I want him blue because I plan on using this color in the background. So I'm gonna use blue and gray to kind of go with these two colors. So I'm using Ecoline watercolor markers and a little brush. I don't want to put them directly on it because I find that it's too strong. So I'd rather use the brush markers and just go ahead and add it. This one isn't working for some reason. Alright, there we go. And we're just gonna go ahead and fill that in. I'm not too worried about the lines because I'm cutting this out once it's dry. And I want to add a little gray to the beak, maybe to the tail area, and the wings. That's why it's important that you use a pigment marker when you're doing this. I mean a pigment ink pad, so you can actually go ahead and color in the bird with markers. I think if you were using alcohol marker, you'd probably have to use the dye-based ink or a hybrid ink that they have specially for using with alcohol markers. Okay, this is dry now, so we're gonna add some paint. I'm gonna start with this paint actually. It's Patina by Folk Art. And I'm just gonna get a brush. I'm gonna go ahead and add it in areas. I also will use a bit of white. Well, I'll just use gesso because I don't have any white handy. And I'll add that to areas also. I don't want to totally cover up all the writing in the background. So you'll find that I probably add and wipe off and add and wipe off as I go along. It's just a part of the process. Alright, this is now dry. As you can see, I wipe back a little area right there. I want to add some brown, so I'm going to use this Walnut ink antique in solution. It's a good idea to put a cloth or a paper towel under for this because it's a spray. And I'm just going to spray in areas, particularly where the joint compound tape is. The drywall tape rather. And then I am going to dab some of it back off. I want to leave it down in those holes right there. It needs a little bit more right here at the bottom. I think I'm just going to leave that area darker as it's the base. So I'm going to let it sit for a bit before I wipe off any excess. Of course, what you could actually do if this happens and you have excess, you could grab another index card and just go ahead and dab that on there, and that could be the beginning of another background. So I'm going to set that aside, give it another dry. Even though this isn't neat, I'm kind of liking how that's looking, so I'm going to leave that. And what I am going to do now is to start adding my embellishments. I'm just making sure my fingers are clean. Well, as clean as they can be right now. And I'm going to grab a little bit of cheesecloth. And I have my ink. I have Distress ink. Of course, you could just use this as well. I just don't want it to get that wet, so I'm using this Distress ink called Walnut Stain, just like that actually, and adding a little, not too much, and just kind of rubbing it in there. I'm just creating a nice nest for my bird. I'm gonna actually go ahead and spray some water, even though I said I didn't want it wet. And like I said, you could have just used the walnut ink spray. That probably would have made more sense than this, being you already had it out. This is gonna be our little bird's nest. I'm just gonna dry it a bit so it will actually stick down. For this, I suggest you use a gel medium or a thicker glue such as Mod Podge could work also. Alright, this is what I'm thinking for the little arrangements, maybe with some bits of raffia, but I think it needs more blue back in the background. I seem to have taken away too much of it with the walnut ink. So I'm going to go ahead and add a bit more. Not a lot, I'm just going to use my finger and just kind of get that back in there. And then maybe grab a paper towel and just kind of blend it in. What I can do is just add a bit more stain where I've taken off too much. And just leave that bit right there for the bird. What's also a good idea when you want to bring more light back into a piece is to just add some splatters of white paint or gesso. You can just use a very wet brush and just splat it across your piece like that, or you can also dab like that. And then we can go ahead and dry that also. Alright, we'll see how that works now and see if it's any lighter. Definitely is better. There we go. Now that looks a lot better. He has a lot of light around him. Still would add a bit more white though. So I'm going to go ahead and just use my finger and bring in more white right here with that brown. Alright, now I'm happy with that. I'm going to go ahead and stick these down back to the matte medium. And then for this, I will have to use some gel medium where I'm going to put it. So just arrange that like a nest. And if you like, you can just go ahead and add a few bits of raffia. Not necessary, but I think it's a nice touch. I'm going to allow this to dry a bit before I add my bird, because I just want to make sure that I don't want to add any more paint or ink. Before I stick my bird down. That will be the final thing that I do. I'm going to make this a little looser. Okay, I'm back again. I went ahead and added a bit more blue paint right here, but I also want to darken back that area. So what I'm going to do is just use this bit of paper towel right here as a mask. I've just folded it up. And I'm just going to cover that area while I'm spraying. And I'll do the same up here. Because I do like the effect that it has. And then what I can do to bring it into other areas, of course, is to just use my paintbrush or tip it like that. To get some cool effects when it starts to run down like that. To get rid of that harsh line. I'll add a little. Actually, I wouldn't mind adding a little to that nest. So there we go. If it gets too dark in areas, as before, you can go ahead and just dab. Alright, I'm going to set that aside to dry, and then the final thing we'll do is to add our little birdie right there. He's going to be so cute. Alright, so I'm going to leave this to dry. I'll be back shortly. Okay, I think we're gonna just finish this drying right here with that. I'm gonna attach this, but before we do that, a good idea is usually to use your ink pad. Hold it. Hopefully your fingers aren't dirty like mine always are. If you have tweezers, that would be great. And just gently go around it. Just around those edges. I'm not too bothered about the feet because those will be hiding. And give it a little outline. And then we're gonna stick him right there, but his feet are gonna be under. So I'm gonna use one of these little dots here. If you don't have that, regular tape will be fine. Foam tape, that is. And I'm just gonna push him in the nest. Just like that. Maybe a little further. Yeah, I think we're good there. It's not 100% dry yet, so I was able to manipulate the nest of it. At this point, if you want, you can go ahead and just use your brush because it's slightly wet and just bring down any areas that you want to. And it's always good to soften those edges with a paper towel or a soft cloth. Alright, we're going to set this aside to fully dry. I am still waiting on this walnut ink to dry out there, but I wanted to go ahead and finish it off and add a word. I think I'm going to use the word blessings. I think it's quite appropriate. That's just the word that's coming to me with this piece. So to do that, I have my tweezer because my fingers are dirty. So I'm going to go ahead and get the word and just hold it with my tweezer, because I just want to go around it with my sponge. Before sticking it down right here. Make sure you have it where you want it, and then go ahead and press it down. I'm avoiding my fingers because, as you can see, my fingers are dirty and just added a little brown mark, but that's okay. And there you have it, your finished index card.